Guys, happy Wednesday. First of all, I apologize. I believe there was a audio issue when I uploaded the video yesterday for a lot of people, so I certainly apologize for that. It's a long podcast with J Mart. We talked a lot about the college football playoffs and went through all the games, but frankly, we still have a week and change for the first game in the college football playoffs. So it is what it is. We'll talk about it more, but I certainly apologize for that. I wanted to come on here today. A couple things on my brain. First thing revolves around Juan Soto's contract and more so the conversation surrounding it about how much money it is and baseball contracts versus basketball and football contracts. And then I want to talk about the Orioles for a second. But first, let's do the Juan Soto thing. And I'm really passionate about this. There is absolutely, positively no reason for any fan ever to be like upset or question why ownership is spending their money. It's their money. Like, I don't care if the value of Juan Soto when he's 36 or 37 years old doesn't match up with the money that he's getting paid because there's no salary cap. There's no limit on how much money the owner can spend. So I do not care. I just want him on the team. I can analyze whether or not I think it's fiscally responsible, but I'd rather do something else with my time because it's not my money and it's not relevant. There's no salary cap. There's no such thing as this owner can only spend this much money. It is a budget that they create themselves based on whatever they decide. Each ownership group does the same thing in baseball. It is not football. Football, basketball, we should debate into the high heavens every single contract because there's a max on how much you can pay the players. So of course we have to debate it. Should the Ravens have brought back Kevin Zeitler or should they have spent that money elsewhere? I'll talk about that for an hour. That's fun. That's fascinating. I don't care how much money Kevin Zeitler makes. That's not relative. That's just, but it's relative to the salary cap. That's why it's like, man, was that the smartest decision for the Ravens to not bring him back, invest in younger guys, and spend that money elsewhere? This is what I think. Oh, this is what I think. Boom, boom, boom. Should the Yankees or the Mets have paid for Juan Soto? Yes. Should the Orioles have paid for Juan Soto? Yes. Should the Marlins pay for Juan Soto? Yes. Yes. Like, why wouldn't you pay for him? I don't like him. I mean, honestly, he's like my least favorite player. But regardless, why as a fan would you be like, oh, it's not fiscally responsible? It's not that doesn't make any sense. So listening to people talk about the value of his contract when he's older and how it's not a smart move it is just silly to me. Like it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever at all. Like it just baseball is an American sport. Baseball follows this tradition in America that you're supposed to be free and make as much money as possible. It's the other leagues that are acting like uh, whatever you want to call it. It's just not a fair open market, right? NFL and NBA is not a fair open market to the players. It's just not. You want to go into the history of why it is that way. That's opening up Pandora's box, and that's a long conversation and a lot of different elements that contribute to that. But the reality is, NBA players and NFL players operate in a world that is frankly just unfair and unjust. There should be no salary caps, period, in sports. That's how I feel. If you don't feel that way and you feel like, oh, there should be a salary cap, then let me know what other industry there's a salary cap in. Let me know what other industry that there's a cap on how much money you can make. If you, like that, I don't like it. I understand it. If I was an owner, I would be lobbying for salary caps to the high heavens. So I'm not mad about it. Like I get it. What I get frustrated about, I think what's bothering me right this second is that people then get upset at the players for getting contracts that they think is too much money or the guy's not going to deserve it or it's not going to be worth it when it doesn't effing matter. Like it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It's not your money. So that's my main point is we should not cape for the owners here and be like, oh, well, at least our owner didn't make a fiscally irresponsible decision. Like, are you monitoring your owner's spending habits on all of his girlfriends and jewelry and cars and houses? Like, why do you care if he's making irresponsible decisions? It just doesn't make any sense. And that leads me into Rubenstein and the Orioles. And what are they doing? They are being cheap and doing the same crap that they always do. I'm so frustrated and disappointed in what's happening because unless a miracle happens and they get Corbin Burnes, they have a 0% chance to win the World Series next year. If you don't bring back Corbin Burnes, you have a 0% chance. Zero. Because you're showing that you're a loser. You're showing you don't want to win the World Series. You're not going to be rewarded to win the World Series when you don't try your hardest. It just will not happen. There's no logic to not pay Corbin Burnes. He did everything he asked him to do. He was better than we thought. He basically won the playoff game if we would have got a hit or two. Well, you don't want to pay him because you want to keep the money for yourself. And if I was an owner, maybe I would do the same thing. I don't know. Never had that kind of money, so I can't say what I would do. But as a fan, I'm not going to sit here and support a team that won't do everything they can to win. That's why I got the Ravens shirt on, and I always root for the Ravens. Ever since we've had the Ravens, they try their hardest. Whatever, they're just trying their hardest. Does it work? No, it's worked twice in 26 years. But they try their hardest. DaCosta's always making a trade. They're never under the cap to save money. They do everything they can to maximize the potential of winning. And this Orioles BS, this new ownership group, overcharged everybody for the playoffs, made the diehard fans pay 10 times more. You got guys sitting next to each other in a playoff game paying $300 difference because one's a diehard Orioles fan, the other one picked up the ticket at the very end. Like, it really mismanaged that. And now Santander's gone for what? For Tyler O'Neill? And I'm supposed to start looking at the analytics of Tyler O'Neill and get for what? I don't care how good he is. I don't care if he's useful to us. We went cheap on Santander, leader of the clubhouse, homegrown. Everyone likes him. And now I'm supposed to be like, well, at least we're being fiscally responsible and not overpaying for Santander when he's 33. Very disappointing without Santander. They can maybe get away with it and still win the World Series by making the argument that they are better without Santander if Kjerstad, in particular, blows up. I'm willing to roll my eyes and be like, whatever. I don't agree with it. It's annoying. It bothers me. I really like Santander, but I can at least see the logic in letting your young player get more reps. The Burnes thing, there's a zero excuse. There's a zero excuse for it. The Giants and the Blue Jays are lurking around. God help us if he goes to the Red Sox. Red Sox will win the division if he goes there. I'm telling you that right now. He goes to Boston, they're winning that division. Don't let him go to Boston. Free goes to the Yankees. Don't care. Don't care that Evaldi went to the Rangers. As long as Burnes comes back, you can't not bring him back. You can't do it. I don't have a platform where anybody important enough is probably going to hear me, but I swear on that, like, it would be a disaster for the Orioles fan base if they don't bring him back. Because now we're just going to have feel-good stories with our young players, and it's going to be BS because you can't win the World Series without top-of-the-line pitching. You can't do it, especially if you already have the guy in-house. Like, it's just not going to work out. So everything I'm reading, I guess that's why I'm complaining about it this morning, is because it just feels like that they're not going to bring him back. Almost like it's a foregone conclusion. And Burnes and his agent are really smart. They're just sitting back and letting Snell get 183. Fried gets 218. I mean, he's going to get 8-9 years for 260, 270. And he's going to retire. And then he should retire here. He should be an Oriole. Got the young kids. He's the leader of the clubhouse. There's just no reason not to do it. You don't pay him, and it's just such leaves a bad taste in my mouth for sure. All right. I guess that's about it for me on the Orioles front. I'm excited for this week in the NFL. It's like playoff game after playoff game after playoff game. 4 games left. Starts tomorrow. So the Niners and the Rams. It's not quite an elimination game for the Rams. It is for the Niners. the Rams beat the Niners, the Niners will be done. They'll be 6-8, and there's just not a pathway to get into the playoffs. The Rams lose, they're 7-7, and there's still a pathway because they get to play Seattle at the end of the year, and they already beat them once. So it'll be a fantastic game. It's a 2.5-point spread. Niners are favored. I know most people want to bet the Rams, especially after they score 1,000,000 points against Buffalo. But I don't know. I trust the Niners more than I trust the Rams in this spot for running the football and not committing stupid penalties. The Rams come off undisciplined sometimes, but they got Puka, and I'm not betting against him, so I probably just will stay away, find some props, and let it ride there. A lot of great games. My favorite game, if you're betting, there's a few games that I think the line is going to move the opposite way by the time we get to game time. So Lions 2.5 against the Bills. That feels like a 3-point spread. If you like the Lions, I would bet them earlier in the week. If you like the Chargers, you might want to take them now. I'm surprised it only came out at 3. I like the Bucks, but I would assume the line would go the other way there. Although the Chargers have no home field advantage, so maybe that's just finally being factored in there. That's a 3-point spread. That just feels small. The Bengals spread is the one that should jump up the most. No one's betting the Titans this week, and the Bengals are only 5-point favorites against the Titans. It is in Tennessee. I'm surprised that line's not going to be 7.5. So it's 5. I would assume most people are betting Bengals there. I don't think anybody's betting Tennessee. And Tennessee just lost at home to Jacksonville and scored 6 points. Yeah, you just want to fade people just to do it. If that makes you feel good, if you think that you're somehow anyway, it just the Bengals, whether or not they crush the Titans, spread wise, 5 points. I would be shocked if that doesn't go up. So that is, and the Eagles are 5-point favorites against the Steelers. Feels like if you like Pittsburgh, you should jump on that right this second. I would imagine that goes down to 4 by the time we start on Sunday. But, yeah, that's the game of trying to predict these lines and guessing where they're going to go. I base a lot of where I think the line's going to move is just public sentiment of what I'm feeling and listening to, because there's really no logic. There's no numbers you can point to know exactly where the line's going to move. So if you think you look at a number right away and you're like, man, how do I couldn't see anybody wanting to bet on that team based on whatever factors are running through your brain. That's usually just the signal for me to be like, I think the line's going to move. There's certain teams and certain statistics that show that more money is being bet on them. It's kind of obvious, like the Cowboys usually get more money bet on them. But generally speaking, guessing where the lines are going to move is a losing game. You just analyze the game itself, bet it, and hope you're on the right side of it. So, all right. Okay, that's it for me this morning. I really hate being negative about anything, but especially sports. But if the Orioles don't spend the money, it's like I've just been dealing with the ownership for my whole life that never spent any money. So it was a euphoric feeling to have the new ownership, one of the richest guys in the world. You don't bring in Burnes, and you just may as well have kept the same ownership. That's how I feel. And yeah, so if you disagree, feel free to yell at me, send me an email, text, tell me something I missed. But I don't care how much money the players are getting. I want them to get as much money as possible. I'm not anti-player. I'm not anti-owner, but I prefer the players to get more money than the owners. Like, I don't know why that would be a crazy take. So, yeah. Anyway, have a great day, guys. I'll be here in the morning, do all Niners-Rams stuff. Let's find some bets. Let's get on the right side of this and start the week off on a high note. Have a good day, guys.